Hello, everyone. I'm here to do some preseason takeaways. Week one against the Saints, they won 34-25. Score doesn't really matter though, and obviously we didn't see the whole entirety of this new offense between Kubiak, Stefanski, all those guys. Anyway, but yeah, obviously we didn't see it all, but I do think it's going to be very reminiscent of what we did see tonight, which is a lot of the tight end looks, a lot of 2, 3 tight end sets, and you're going to see a lot of under center from Kirk Cousins, which isn't bad because it's going to kind of cater to his strengths, which is playing off that run game, being in those play action fakes, doing bootlegs, just all off of that run game, which was pretty good to see was actually existent in this game. Even though, like, just the O line as a group, it was kind of nice just to see it work in general. Like, we kind of were actually able to run the ball with all 3 units, it seemed. And that was kind of nice because at least in this new zone scheme, looks like it is going to be beneficial for our run game as far as his first preseason game goes. But and I did think one guy that did stand out to me on the line, kind of in the later stages of the game, was Drew Samia. I thought he was a very good run blocker, specifically within this scheme. I kind of knew that coming into this year that he would be that kind of player, but it was kind of nice to see it work because Kobe Gossett, if you remember him from last year, was supposed to be a very similar kind of run blocker to Drew Samia that we have this year. Gossett doesn't play for them anymore. So it was kind of nice to see one of them actually kind of live up to it. And I do think we should feel comfortable with our backup quarterback situation, even though I know there's going to be arguments whether, well, probably more of just one argument of Sloter for Mannion, not so much Mannion over Sloter. So, but I do think I'm kind of okay with either being the backup just because Mannion, I think he was like a decent backup. He kind of looked like one anyway. He kind of looked like maybe an average kind of guy back there. Maybe nothing's, flashy or special behind Kirk, but he's certainly not horrible as far as backups go. And then Sloter kind of just did Sloter things. So, as far as I'm concerned, backup quarterback is kind of filled. It just depends which one is the preference because I've read some things that say Sloter isn't that great in practice all the time, where maybe Mannion is more consistent in that area. So that could be a thing. But specific players who did stand out to me at least, Jalen Holmes, the defensive tackle, is the first one. I felt he was getting a good amount of pressure throughout the game, and he could help in that rotation that kind of would help replace what Richardson brought to the table last year. And he did kind of struggle against the run, which is kind of an issue that I thought might happen, him being a former defensive end. Hercules Mataafa, I saw a lot of similar things from him. At times he was able to get some pressure in there right up the middle, but once again, in the run game, he was kind of eaten alive. And the other defensive lineman, Ifeadi Odenigbo, and he's stood out a couple times in the preseason, last 2 years now. And I think he kind of just continues to get better. I really like him as a backup end. I think he could be one of those little project players that maybe he's kind of like Stephen Weatherly, where you draft him in the 7th round and it takes a couple of years, but eventually he's going to get to a point where he's actually going to be a viable player. And I think he might be able to get there. Is he there now? Don't know, but I do think he could potentially get there as you see him like kind of he has a good pursuit and he comes around the edge. It's both he has a relentless motor and it kind of you can just kind of see it. It's hard to explain sometimes, but he I think he could eventually become a viable player as he's just always kind of there. He's always causing disruption of some form. And yeah, Olabisi Johnson, the wide receiver, is another one that kind of stood out. I think he showed some versatility just by the fact that he was out there for the kick return. He didn't take it despite only being about a yard or two deep, But the fact that he was even out there is kind of nice to see. So he has that versatility to make the roster, and he was second tonight in receiving yards to Tyler Conklin, and could potentially get some playing time as the number 3 or the number 4 receiver just because of the lack of depth. Because after Diggs and Thielen, it's not too promising. You have obviously Olabisi Johnson, Dylan Mitchell's in the mix, Chad Beebe, Treadwell, Brandon Zylstra. You don't have many names. And he's kind of the one that stood out the most tonight. We'll see if that continues, as he is a 7th round rookie. Alexander Madison, the running back, he always kind of fell forward, and that's really good to see from your power back. And he had some really good blitz pickups throughout the game, and him being used as early and often as he was, I do think should tell us that he's going to be kind of a bigger factor in this backfield than some might think. I don't think it's necessarily just going to be only Dalvin Cook when healthy. I do think he's going to come in. He might be kind of a vulture, kind of like how Latavius was, but it is what it is. And I do think that's okay just because he can do everything. To me, he kind of has a similar skill set to Latavius Murray, and that's why he's here now, because he's brought in to replace Latavius. So, and then the last one I have here is just the tight end group, just as a whole. These guys are obviously going to be important in this scheme, and just kind of try to be deadly in this pass game, I think. Because Rudolph had a 20-yard catch. Irv Smith didn't have that great of a night. It kind of felt like they were forcing it to him sometimes. But he did have that one catch near the end of the first half that kind of showcased his speed and how he might be able to be used off of that run game. You might see maybe instead of Conklin catching that screen pass in the regular season, we could see Irv Smith catching the screen pass. And obviously, Irv Smith is a much better athlete that can go for much more. And I do think we kind of saw that giddy up, though. He accelerated very quickly. And, I'm used to watching Kyle Rudolph catch passes, and then, I saw that and I was like, oh, I was kind of taken back by it for a second just because I'm not used to seeing it. And it was kind of nice to see that. So I think as he gets more comfortable and things like that, things will get better. First NFL game thing, hopefully we'll see that subside and we'll see some progress throughout this preseason, because he only caught 3 of 7 balls tonight. And yeah, but Tyler Conklin, I think he's kind of gotten more comfortable, and he looks like he's kind of gotten better in the run game a little bit. He obviously had the screen pass, the aforementioned screen pass, and I don't know if we may need a true number 3 receiver, assuming we can actually run the ball effectively, because we have all of these tight ends. Not to mention, David Morgan didn't play tonight. He's their best run-blocking tight end. And you still have Cole Hikatuni and Brandon Dillon, who also caught passes in this game. So they're very deep at this group, and this is the group that I think they might actually have more of these guys in total than wide receivers, just because of how important the tight end group might be to this offense this year, because I think you're going to see a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets. So, yeah, but that's what I have to say. I want to know who stood out to you guys, your thoughts. Am I wrong on these things? Let me know in the comments down below. But I have one note here. It's only one preseason game. Don't get too jazzed up about it. Things are subject to change. Obviously, Olabisi could still not even make the roster, but he kind of stood out to me this game. But if he disappears the rest,